You should have had a canned answer thanking the guy and just saying we needed a change, blah, blah, blah. Instead, they go this route. I am telling you that they better.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
The Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Arvel Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is or if they're playing a joke on me, Joe.
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Who is that?
Here, but I have no idea.
You need to know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Don? Isn't that like the rule of thumb if you're going to take a quarterback? Is he not the best quarterback?
The early line, only.
Time decisions live here on SportsGrid on a Wednesday night. Kevin Walsh with you from the decisions desk as we look to get involved with a basketball heavy Wednesday. Some ice available, no doubt about it. You look over at this college basketball board, and what you will see is the number one team in the country, the Arizona Wildcats, with an important Big 12 battle against Cincinnati. These Bearcats have won 2 in a row, most notably an upset of, at the time, the number 2 team in the country in Iowa State. Both of those at home. However, for Cincinnati, you could argue it's a step up in competition. Though, as we've seen recently, it is a long college basketball season, and staying unbeaten is a hard thing to do. Purdue dropped their second game yesterday, one of the 5 best teams in college basketball, on the road at UCLA, where Miami of Ohio stayed perfect, 20-0 in overtime. Again, this time a trip to Kent State. For Arizona, just continuing to stack these wins, it positions them as kind of this undeniable number 1 team in the country. Yet you'll still notice when we talk the national championship market, the sun shines just a bit brighter on those Michigan Wolverines, who are the number 1 team in that outright market, as well as on the efficiency tracking sites like KenPom, where there's even a bit of a gap, actually, between Michigan and Arizona. The Wolverines got back on track yesterday, coming back from their West Coast trip as they handled Indiana, though still not covering numbers, really. This Michigan group here, perhaps a little overinflated right now, the Wolverines in the market. You could at least make a case. From the NBA side of it, the eyes of this slate, I think, will be drawn towards the New York Knicks, a team who feels a bit desperate. They've lost 9 of their last 11 basketball games and are settling in for what should be a get-right spot against the Brooklyn Nets. There are not many teams who have simply been worse than the Knicks since we've turned to the new year. The Nets are one of them. No surprise. And a loss here for Brooklyn is par for the course. A loss here for the Knicks, it feels like they're going to need to pause everything and trade everyone. That at least would be the vibe. We will kind of put into perspective when we break this game down just how bad things have really been for the Knicks in recent weeks. We will also hit some key NFL news, including the continued fallout from the Sean McDermott firing, the Buffalo Bills remaining brass taking to the podium to basically say everything was Sean's fault. Hey, you know Keon Coleman, who we still for sure have under contract? We never wanted to draft him. Sean did. And then also, of course, the videos that are coming out that seemingly suggest that's not even true. I wonder if some of the clear and obvious desire to go in-house with Buffalo, and Dable is like, Brian Dable is a degree removed from in-house, right? Is that because maybe this job isn't as attractive as it should be? I'm not taking a shot at any of the players on the Bills. I'm saying it, is this ownership group right now, is this brain trust not that appealing? I don't think that's off the board. I do not think that is off the board. We will update you on the prediction markets and what they expect around the latest head coaches, especially the Buffalo Bills. We did get a big domino to fall in the offensive coordinator carousel, which seemingly spins as intensely as the head coaching carousel, with Mike McDaniel landing with the Los Angeles Chargers. McDaniel was heavily sought after by two NFC mainstays in Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. Ultimately, though, makes the decision that the Chargers were the fit for him. And that, I think, it is very, very interesting because a number of teams in these clearly highly contested coordinator races are offering up full autonomy, right? You run everything. You'll never, ever hear from the head coach, right? Yet, is that true in Philly? Is that true in Tampa Bay? Perhaps that is, McDaniel feels is true in Los Angeles. And the opportunity to work with Justin Herbert, who a lot of people certainly believe in around the NFL, I am sure is a draw. I'm curious already what this will do to next year and early MVP odds, because I do think there is going to be a groundswell. There's going to be this push that McDaniel plus Herbert is unstoppable. We will see, but it is certainly a great move for the Chargers on its face because they needed to shake some things up offensively. We'll see if McDaniel can be just that. We are getting closer and closer to, of course, the conference championships. We will do our target player props tonight, as we always do, though with, of course, and we're well aware a lot of these numbers by Wednesday get pushed out. We took a little more of an exact spin, if you will, on today's target player props. There are some key questions I think you could ask of each of the four teams prop-wise, and that's between quarterbacks and skill position players, so we will ask those questions as we always do with the help of Tom Vecchio. We will also, a little bit later on in our show tonight, get the help of Cam Stewart before the Amex, the PGA Tours. We do cover here on Game Time Decisions. Bring Scotty Scheffler back into the fold for the first time this season. Sits at 3-1. The next closest golfer, Ben Griffin, is at 20-1 gaps we have grown accustomed to with Scotty Scheffler, though maybe a gap that is difficult to justify because this is, as we spoke to Brady yesterday, not typically a tournament where you get the best version of Scotty Scheffler. So it'll be fun to hear from Cam Stewart about what he thinks at the Amex. Of course, some of his thoughts on the NFC Championship as well. Wouldn't be surprised if Cam is involved in the NHL slate tonight on a Wednesday. A few good options. The primetime spots come to us from Toronto as they host a sneaky good Red Wings team. And sneaky is probably in the eye of the beholder, but as somebody who maybe doesn't check the NHL standings as often as I do, what's Detroit doing with like the top 5 most points scored? I thought they were awful. You know what I mean? Right? So, hey, you want some NHL picks later? Maybe we'll swing them out there. And that is where your primetime slate then would carry on later with the Kraken and the Islanders. And the Islanders, as I've been informed by the New York faithful, with young Matty Schaefer up and coming. Speaking of hockey, by the way, because tonight, of course, we will do best bets. You know, sometimes this Yarnell, he delivers us an eye roller. No other way to call it. Actually, there's a lot of other ways, but none of them are nicer. Yet, the Buffalo Sabres were labeled red hot while being on a 2-game losing streak. That really piqued my interest, and they stayed red hot with a win against the Predators. So maybe the ice shouldn't be ignored. Go to the NBA next.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigants in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not either.
That's fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. There's
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. I say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clay Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, I'm reaching out to multiple support groups. The best bet segment has me rattled beyond belief. We'll get there. I don't want to jump the shark. I don't. We're going to talk some NBA. Gosh almighty, this best bet segment. Not happy about it. Not happy about it. We'll get there, all right? Let's talk NBA tonight. Couple of good spots. I really believe the Knicks-Nets game It's actually a big game. It really is. Because the New York Knicks have been one of the 5 worst teams in the NBA over the last 3 weeks. They're a 12-point favorite tonight, total between 219.5, 220 and a hook. But the New York Knicks net rating since the final day of 2025 is only better than the Jazz, the Nets, and the Wizards. It is actively worse than that of the New Orleans Pelicans. I want people to understand that when you take the time to look at the worst records in the NBA, those teams are all there. Utah is, it's so funny because they're so annoying. They are clearly a talented bunch, but like they just beat Minnesota last night. Larry Markkinen missed the game for an illness, okay? They are going to diagnose the full team with whatever illness that is and forfeit in the next week of basketball, basically in Utah, after they upset the Wolves, okay, as a double-digit home underdog. The Wizards are the greatest tanking team in the history of the sport because the Jazz, it's gross, right? The Wizards, they just made a we got better move that set them up better to tank because Trae Young for sure won't wear that Wizards uniform until next season at the earliest. Like, the Wizards are going to get in the Anthony Davis sweepstakes at some point. They're like, wait, did he get that surgery or not? If he got that surgery, we'd love to pair him with Trae Young. Our fans can play on 2K, turn injuries off, great group, but in real life, awful. And the Wizards have also sneaky tanked the Hawks season because CJ McCollum might get traded again. For anybody that's not paying attention to that situation right now. Remember when everything in Atlanta was Trae's fault? Yeah, they're on a huge losing streak. They stink. So that's going on too. The Nets are in the mix right here at the bottom, though, and that's who the Knicks face, and that is who the Knicks need to beat. What jumped off the page to me, though, when breaking down this game is the destruction that they suffered against the Dallas Mavericks was Brunson's first game back after an ankle injury saw him leave in the first quarter against Sacramento. And for better or worse, this Knicks team needs Jalen Brunson out there and playing well. He was awful against Dallas. I don't expect that to continue. But I do think this could be a little bit of everybody eats kind of situation because against Brooklyn, why would everyone not eat? I think a Knicks team total is the safest way to play it. Again, sometimes I think this Knicks team is a little bit lost. However, they have scored under 100 points in consecutive games. That is the second and third time that has happened at home all season long. It's a clear and obvious bounce-back spot. And it's a bounce-back spot that we're going to play here with a Knicks team total over 116.5. I am also interested in the Bucks-Oklahoma City game tonight. My best bet will be a player prop. We'll do that in the next segment, I think. Milwaukee is catching double digits because, of course, they're not very good. But they're also not supremely healthy. No Miles Turner, no Kevin Porter Jr. This team is in a state where, yes, losing both of those guys is going to be negatively impactful. But Oklahoma City, it's tough because I am, and I mean this, I am legitimately disappointed in that team. I thought they were going to give us a legitimate race for will they win 73, 74, at least 70, and that didn't happen. But the grace that you can offer them in that respect is they are also one of the most injured teams in the league, and they go into this game tonight without Isaiah Hartenstein still, without Jalen Williams, who got injured in the last game. Jalen Williams, under the radar, hamstring injury, out multiple weeks. No Aaron Wiggins, who started last game. no Alex Caruso. This is too many points. I think it's way too many points, in fact. This is a Bucks team who you could still argue, at least it's, at minimum, it's more than on the board that they'll have the best player in the game tonight in Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? It's at minimum on the board, right? Full season, it's Shea. He's an MVP favorite. He's also the reigning MVP, Finals MVP. So I don't want to be dismissive over Shea. But Giannis having the best game is a coin flip, probably. And what you then have is a lot on the plate of Chet Holmgren. And you guys know I am as big of a believer in Chet as there is. But Chet now has to go out there and be the best, has to be the second best offensive player and best defensive player for OKC. It's a lot on the plate, especially when you have to guard Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't even know who's left from a front court perspective for this team to throw out there, because they spent a first-round pick on Thomas Sorber out of Georgetown and shut him down, basically, right away. Is Ousmane Dieng giving us minutes at the 5? I think the Bucks are sneaky live. I do. We have seen this OKC team literally lost the game before last at Miami. I think double digits is way too many here. I think the Bucks are live in this game. I think they cover the 11.5. We're going to take a quick break, okay? When we come back, best bets. Gosh, we're going to get to them. As well as my 2 favorite picks on the college basketball board. That is next, right here on Sports.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there.
Yeah.
To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigant in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing.
There's more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. You say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clay Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, Game Time Decisions back in a big way because it's our best bet segment, and I think we've got some good ones. Well, we've got some best bets here. All of these, I don't know, they make me smile. What's interesting is for Yarnell to not be on the ice, what does that tell you? Sabres aren't playing. And the Sabres took their off day to seemingly put Yarnell in charge of the organization. 7-year contract for basically my co-host on Game Time Decisions, Josh Doan, is featured so much. And I also want to say this basically now confirms we are the premier Josh Doan network in all of sports media. No way no other show mentions Josh Doan as much as this one. Is that a success? Is that a failure? I don't know, but I think it's true. So what is Yarnell's best bet? Literally something I'm going against. He likes the over in Notre Dame, North Carolina. And here's a little peek behind the curtain. Some maybe it depends who you are, right? Brash, loud, Kevin Walsh. Often bullied by those closest to him. And with Yarnell, no different. Chris swoops in occasionally as well. Bad with these totals is what they like to say. Well, got the best number. How about that on under 149.5 here in this UNC Notre Dame game? So I'm straight up going against Yarnell's best bet. Didn't know it. Still the case. Notre Dame is very, very slow. Their defense has been lackluster, and I think they will be happy to play a slower game here against North Carolina, whose defense let them down on the West Coast. And that is where I think they look to right the ship primarily in this game, is defensively. I like the under. I do. Chris, with a intervention level best bet here. Texas, Kentucky first half over 71.5. Now, you might say, what is wrong with that? Again, it depends how routinely you watch this show. But Kentucky, a week ago, played a game against LSU where Chris bet the over as a best bet on the show and bet it multiple times because he wasn't consistently getting the best of the number. And it was one of the most gut-wrenching games I've ever seen if you played the total. This thing was 72 all, and the free throws, it was like, all right, he made 2, we got to make 2, make 1. All right, he made 1, we got to make 1, not going to happen. The game ends on a Malachi Moreno buzzer beater, so instead of Chris losing by 3, he lost by 1 on the best of the number. He would have got there on all of the numbers. I'm a Kentucky fan. He bets more Kentucky games than me. I can't figure it out. And what I love, and I say this with love, I don't even know if Chris knows anybody on this Kentucky team, and yet he bets them every night. It's legitimately awesome. And like Chris watches and bets college basketball, and somehow Kentucky keeps calling his name. Also, since he's betting college basketball and not the NHL, what does that mean? The Canadians aren't playing tonight. This guy yesterday on an off day was betting Montreal in parlays. This is outrageous. AJ swoops in with a casual Syracuse minus 3.5. I don't know. What do you want? We had to beat down his door to get this best bet out of him, so he's trying to keep it under the hat. I don't know what it says. Is James Franklin coaching this game for the Hokies? What's the story here? He's laying 3.5. A very boring, very chalky, yet very soon to be profitable Donovan Mitchell 30+ at minus 115. Bounce back spot of the season, many are asking. He's gone 2 straight without scoring 20. Happened one other time this season. Scored 34 in the next game. In each of the last 2 games, he's shooting 9 of 31 from the field. Awful, clear bounce back spot against, you know how he did all the Knicks net rating stuff? Hornets, best team in basketball. I don't know what's going on. But the Charlotte Hornets, in a not that small sample size over their last 9 or 10 games, have the second best net rating in the NBA. It's a little out of control. So, against all odds, I'll take Cleveland here and their superstar to give us 30+. The one other game I did not mention, but I did want to, is number 1 Arizona against Cincinnati. I am actually going to lay the 13.5 with the Wildcats. You guys know I don't routinely lay big numbers, but I think we're actually getting some value. Wildcats haven't been covering a ton recently. Cincinnati getting that huge win against Iowa State. When they play teams that push tempo, they get blasted in the second half. Happened against Louisville, happened against Georgia. I think it happens against Arizona. So give me the Wildcats. Let's talk more hoops. Coach James Young next, right here on Game Time Decisions.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there.
Yeah.
To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigants in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. Here's the thing.
There's more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. You say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's the head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clay Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, game time decisions back right here on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh now joined by Coach James Young, host of both pro and college basketball today here on SportsGrid. And, JY, it is that time of year, man. The college basketball slates, we got a lot of big ones. We've got another great one tonight and a couple of key spots in the NBA.
It's a good time during the year. Obviously, with games every night, and it's a good slate. Just really good performances. Some teams in the NBA that are in trouble, the Knicks, and then you got some interesting games going on in college tonight. So, really good slate of basketball we have tonight.
So let's start with the college game, JY, where I want to I know it might be a little out of order, but the number one team in the country, Arizona, is in action. They're playing Cincinnati, and it's an Arizona team that is right now kind of churning them out, if you will, right? But they're not on a great run against the number. Still solid overall on the season. But it's a Cincinnati team that did just upset Iowa State in their most recent game. What are you expecting from Arizona here in this spot?
I'm going to lead on their defense, Kevin. I'm going to go under 67.5 for Cincinnati. I know that the last 5 or so opponents have gone over their number versus Arizona, and the last 3 over. But if you look at the defensive metrics of an Arizona Wildcats team, if you want to look at KenPom, defensive efficiency, 2-point shooting percentage, effective field goal percentage, defense, everything they're having are in the top 50. And if you look at Cincinnati, they still kind of struggle to score at times. And I think they're going to have the attention of the Wildcats, especially the fact that they have been playing good basketball and gave Houston a little bit of a run here over the weekend. But I'm going to take the team total under. I think it's 67.5 points tonight for Cincinnati.
JY, when you watch this Arizona team, do you feel like there are a handful of other teams in their class, or maybe only one or two?
Listen, Kevin, I think there's a lot more than people think. I know Iowa State has struggled as of late, but they just had a 30-point win over UCF. They kind of got themselves going. Houston is now playing Houston basketball, right? BYU lost, but I still like them. Texas Tech gave Houston a battle. Kevin, I haven't even left the league yet, and I've named 4 other teams right then and there. So listen, at the end of the day, it's about what you – I always get nervous as a coach when you're playing well, like when is the stinker coming out? Remember with Duke when they were playing so well and they got picked off by Houston? We're like, when is it coming? When is it coming? It's almost like, I don't know, like I need Arizona to trip up, have a stinker or two, maybe like Michigan did, and maybe start to recalibrate and find themselves because they haven't hit adversity yet. And I think that's a concern. We saw with Michigan beating everybody up. Oh, well, you get them in a game, all of a sudden, like you get a little bit tight. So to me, I like Arizona. They've done a great job, but I'm not going to put them on a pedestal and not include at least 3 other teams in their own league.
Yeah, you know, JY, I think that might be, I don't think that's the popular take that you gave, but I do tend to agree with you, and it's not that I'm low on Arizona. I think they have rightfully earned the claim to best team in college basketball. I think they would be, I think you could pretty easily argue they deserve to be the favorites over Arizona because Michigan has a tougher, an obvious one-to-one battle with Purdue when we talk about Big Ten representation on the 1 seed line, right? But I just think there are 8 teams who all feel really, really good. The one, JY, that probably deserves to be mentioned in that I know I am personally overlooking is Illinois. Yeah. 11th in the AP poll, 8th on KenPom. Actually now the number 1 offense, according to KenPom, after jumping Purdue, who lost last night to UCLA. Are you betting Illinois' game tonight against Maryland? And if not still, what do you think about this Illinois team through almost 20 games?
You know, the thing is, Kev, is it's when you think about Illinois, you don't think about offense, right? You think about like Brad Underwood, toughness, get into you know what. Ever since they got beaten up, I think it was Nebraska came and whooped them in Champaign about 3 or so weeks ago. They have turned it on. And you got to start looking at the Big Ten and saying, well, maybe it's Purdue, maybe it's Nebraska. You can't leave out Illinois because at the end of the day, they may be one of the toughest teams, like tough, like mentally tough, physically tough, will grind your gears. And now that they're scoring offensively, that's going to be a really interesting take is what happens with them. I think they could go far in March and into April. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they follow up their game with Maryland. I do believe it's Purdue this weekend. So that's another big matchup. But all of a sudden, the Big Ten has got some teams, not just Purdue or Michigan State. You got to talk about Nebraska and you got to talk about Illinois.
All right, so JY, as far as the rest of this college basketball board, anything else catching your eye tonight?
No, I'm just kind of settling in on that game in regards to the 67.5 points that you may see tonight out of Cincinnati going under against Iowa State. Those are the only things I'm kind of really looking at tonight. I want to kind of see how these teams kind of play themselves through right now because this is where it starts to get interesting because now you get these teams second leg paying them a second time as we come down the stretch. But I'm really been impressed by what I've seen. If I want to go one other one, Villanova, Georgetown. Look at Georgetown's team total under. Villanova is a pesky team defensively. They don't run the ball up the floor. They play pretty good defense. And I think Villanova is going to have the attention of Georgetown being they almost beat UConn over the weekend. But think about the score. I think it was they scored in the low 60s. So a team like Georgetown with Ed Cooley, they're not going to run the ball up the floor. They want to try and beat you in a half court.
JY, we're going to talk quite a bit about the Knicks and the Nets, I assume, in our next segment here. So tell me NBA-wise, especially earlier on in this slate, are you betting anything Charlotte, Cleveland, Boston, Indiana?
No, nothing with Charlotte, Cleveland. And well, actually, what I'm looking at, I should say this. I am looking at plus supports with Charlotte. It's +3. It may have moved. No Darius Garland. 2 games Darius Garland played went off against Charlotte. And Charlotte is starting, Kevin, to be like that little pesky team that when they get it right, and it's not just LaMelo now, it's Bridges, it's Miller, it's Kneppel, it's Mark Williams, it's Kalkbrenner coming off the bench. Charles Lee, you got to admit, has got this team playing much better basketball. They had that big 30-point win at OKC. They beat the Lakers down by 20-some-odd points in LA. They're starting to figure it out, and I do think Cleveland is not, they're just not right. I think this is a big spot for Charlotte plus points. I wouldn't be shocked if he stole it at home.
And, you know, like I said, with we're going to talk a lot about the Knicks. They are, I think, rightfully getting the eye of a lot of people. We showed it before. We'll show it again. Bottom 5 in net rating since we basically flipped the calendar to 2026. But Cleveland is not having some walk in the park season. And you, I think, would be right to argue that things in Cleveland should be as concerning as New York. First of all, the Knicks have a better record than the Cavs. The Knicks also had a much bigger change in terms of their head coach. Cleveland's MO was to just run it back, improve a little bit on the margins. And yet, here we are. Though, maybe my attempt to will LeBron being traded to Cleveland into existence got a little bit of a boost today because apparently Jeannie Buss doesn't like to live in reality. Well, Jeannie, let me help you out. The Lakers were the worst organization in basketball, and then LeBron on his own decided to come and absolutely 100% saved your organization. You and every other Laker clown should appreciate that. You're welcome. We'll talk Knicks next.
Bang, bang!
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigants in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not either.
That's fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. There's
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. And say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clay Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Okay, guys, back right here on Wednesday night. We're joined by Coach James Young, who does an excellent job here on SportsGrid with college basketball today and pro basketball today. And I am sure, JY, that on the pro side, you have been keeping a close eye on the Knicks. Not just because you are a Knicks fan, but, and look, I'm going to put this up, JY. I don't know if you saw, we showed this a little bit earlier on in the show. Since December 31st, the bottom 5 net ratings in the NBA, the only teams with a worse net rating than the Knicks, the Jazz, the Nets, and the Wizards. Like, this isn't some random thing where it's like, oh, look, the Celtics or the Pistons or the No. It's just the worst teams in basketball and the Knicks. So there's so many avenues we can go, JY, but I think the one most people at home will care about, how does that lend into your action tonight with their matchup with Brooklyn?
Before we get into the Knicks' struggles, I'm going to do something where I'm going to go against everything that they've done. I'm going to think they're going to score tonight. Over 116.5 points versus the Nets. If you look at it, Kevin, they've gone under 6 out of the last 8 games. Those are all games they've lost. The 2 games they won, they've gone over 116.5. And they're playing against a Brooklyn Nets team that is a big spot in the Garden. You had Jalen Brunson calling it a players-only meeting. I don't know if it's during halftime or after the game, where he basically called people out. So I am looking at them to try and come out and outslug a Brooklyn Nets team that really can't stop a nosebleed. So I'm going to go over 116.5 points, but then I'm going to go with Jalen Brunson over 6.5 assists. Yes, he's only going over 4 of the last 10 games, but 5 of the last 7 games has been versus Nets he's gone over. If you are the point guard and you are calling out your teammates for their play, I don't know if him getting 35 tonight helps the team. He's got to find the guys, get them shots, get them comfortable. I'm going with JB over 6.5 assists tonight.
Yeah, this is a spot where I think the Knicks offense will step up, JY, because I think this is an offensive-minded team, and when their back's up against the wall, it's not going to be, hey, let's lock in and hold someone to 95. It's going to be, all right, time to score a buck 25. And their backs are up against the wall here in this spot. But JY, to now kind of zoom out of just this game, I don't think dominating the Nets, if that happens even, right, is enough. Or maybe it is. You have kind of told us, I think, a few times when we've asked, your thoughts on the Knicks, that keep an eye on Cat. Just doesn't seem like everything's fitting there. We heard some reports earlier this week that Karl-Anthony Towns could be traded not just in relation to a Giannis move, that there are other options on the board for the Knicks here. How likely do you think it is that Cat is traded out of the Garden?
If they continue on the path they are going, he will be gone by the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Because the pressure is on. And before we get to Cat and I get into it, I want people to go back to 1995, 1996 season. Pat Riley leaves. Very popular coach, goes to Miami, right? The famous facts in his resignation. The Knicks go from a defensive-minded coach to an offensive-minded coach that didn't win a championship coaching. That was Don Nelson. And what happened? They lost their defensive identity. He was fired halfway through the season, and that's how New York got Jeff Van Gundy. Are you listening, Mike Brown? Because you could end up being the fall guy if this goes any further, because this is a team that's been irrelevant for 25 years. They get Tibbs, then they start winning. They don't win enough. They get rid of Tibbs. They bring you in, and the defensive flaws are still there. So that's that. In regards to Cat, it's the flailing. It's the not getting back on defense. It's the crying to the referees. It's gotten old. I mean, you got Knicks fans wishing that they had Julius Randle back. That's how bad it's gone for Cat the last 3 or so weeks. So if you make a trade, there are intriguing ones. Jaren Jackson Jr., intriguing. But I'll tell you this right now. You're going to think I'm crazy. If they could get somehow Suggs and Wendell Carter Jr., you're going to think I'm nuts. I'd do it right now. Because Jalen Suggs could fix a lot of the defensive issues at the point of attack, because Brunson don't play no defense. I don't care what he says. And Wendell Carter Jr. can give you double-doubles and be there, but there's still the Mitch factor. It's all going to come down to the next week or two. If the Knicks don't play well, you're going to see them make a move. It's either going to be the coach or it's going to be Cat. It's one of those two.
Yeah. I think the thing that bothers me, it's a separate thing, but we had wondered, right, would the Knicks blow it up for Giannis? Like earlier in the year, right? We know the answer to that now, I think. And Giannis is just playing games. Like, everyone knows he wants to leave. He just refuses to say, like, I'm requesting the trade. And I don't get it. I don't know why
he doesn't want to be the bad guy.
He already is.
And listen, I feel like, look,
he's
Giannis,
getting awful advice.
Yeah. I don't know who's speaking on, but Giannis, listen to me, brother. I'm going to tell you something. Just go Hollywood Hogan. Just turn your back. Put the gold like blonde like beard. Or no, I think the beard was black. But you get what I'm going. Go Hollywood. Just say to him, y'all stink. Doc's overrated. You gave $150 million to a guy that gets as many rebounds as Brooke Lopez. I want out. And I'll take my two brothers with me. We don't want the two brothers. You can leave the two of them back there. But you won't take Giannis with you. Giannis, come to New York. Embrace it. Come to the dark side.
I do wonder a little if Giannis's unwillingness to request a trade is because he knows that he doesn't want to give them a, hey, listen, I'd like to go to one of 4 teams. He just only wants to be a Knick, and that literally will make him a bad guy. JY, fantastic as always, my man. We'll be right back with Best Bets here on SportsGrid.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there.
Yeah.
To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigant in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. There's
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. You say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's the head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clay Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, folks, here on a Wednesday night, we will lock in these best bets because we've got some 7 o'clock, actually 3 7 o'clock games in those best bets. So, you know what, let's just put them on the board in case you are just tuning in now. We're going to do target player props at the top of the hour. I'm on Donovan Mitchell for 30-plus points, clear and obvious bounce-back spot for Donnie, who has not scored 20-plus in 2 straight. So I think he breaks out tonight against Charlotte. Plenty of respect for the Hornets, though. They have been impressive, to say the least, over their last 9 or 10 games. Chris is on a first half over Texas and Kentucky, which means we'll know I actually always love when we know the result of a crisp best bet while we're all here together. And we will know the result of this bet as that game is going to be tipping off momentarily. And then Yarnell with a North Carolina Notre Dame over 149. I like under 149.5. We'll see how it goes. AJ Syracuse minus 3.5 is a little bit later on tonight. I think we have now seen a few of the coaching moves, right? And just kind of the directions that some of the things are going here. What I am enjoying right now is how important some of the offensive coordinator searches feel. We just had, within the last hour, full confirmation that Eric Bieniemy is going back to Kansas City, which is more confirmation that the Titans almost hiring Matt Nagy was insane. I think that's fair to say. Oh, also, by the way, guess who's interviewing Matt Nagy for their offensive coordinator job? Yeah. Okay, Dub's about to hit the market, huh? Right? Oh, is that Raider Kev? Oh, is that Billy Kev? Is that Jet Kev? Me and this Muji? Tell you what, they draft a quarterback. Listen, Mel Kiper, legend of the game. He had them taking Ty Simpson at 16. Okay? I'm pretty sure they try and hand that card in. Someone's going to tackle Goodell before he finishes that sentence. There is no chance. Also, I don't know what's going on. Another mock draft with the Giants taking a wide receiver at 5. Do I not know their roster, or does no one else know their roster? What is that story? I need to speak to some more sources because I do not understand that whole thing. This is the longest incomplete sentence because the Eagles are interviewing Matt Nagy. I don't love that. Don't love it. In fact, I hate it. The price you pay for being right. The job's for sure going to go to Jim Bob Cooter. What are you going to do? Mike McDaniel to L.A. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see, right? I'm very curious what the wide receiver outlook is with McDaniel ending up in Los Angeles. While Tua is obviously not Herbert, we maybe underrated the wide receivers that McDaniel was able to work with in South Beach. Tyreek Hill is an apex top 10 wide receiver ever. I don't even think that is a debate. And occasionally we weren't sure if he was the fastest wide receiver on the team. I mean, it was a pretty fantastic setup that they had, I think. You have Ladd McConkey coming off of this impossibly weird regression from a rookie to sophomore season. That somehow also happened to Brian Thomas Jr. Just very weird. Quentin Johnston had like a half a breakout, not a full breakout. I don't know. Maybe that was Herbert's fault, though, because the offense just got so bad. We blame everything on the offensive line. I know. There's going to be a lot of excitement, though, I think, for McDaniel to get this job. What I am super curious in, you want to just talk about like getting ahead of yourself. Are teams going to be lining up to make Mike McDaniel their head coach, like after a good season in L.A., multiple good seasons in L.A.? Like, I know he got interviews this year, but I don't think there was any team that was actually dying to give him a head coaching job, which is interesting. Buffalo is certainly not dying to give Mike McDaniel a head coaching job because they already know that they're going to give the job to one of two guys. Josh Allen's current offensive coordinator or his former offensive coordinator. Buffalo's weird right now. I think we could agree on that at the minimum. Market player props next.
sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigants in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not either.
That's fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. There's
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. And say, well, why? Wait a second here. Who's head coach of the New York Giants? Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clint Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions live on SportsGrid on a Wednesday night. We are one possession in to Kentucky, Texas. We have 2 points on the board. Get excited, people. Get excited. We've got a couple of our best bets live right now. We are, of course, though, going to be diving in to our target player props. And as I said at the open of our show tonight, we took not an entirely different spin. You know, occasionally we say we directly want this number or, sometimes, though, we offer up the how are the books going to treat a number. And I think you have that in a number of spaces here this weekend. The most obvious is Jarrett Stidham. And do you play the over or the under on passing yards? Jarrett Stidham does not have a ton of starts in his NFL career. You have to go back to a couple of them in 2023, where Stidham threw for over 220 yards and a touchdown in each of those starts. Stidham had a few starts, in fact, in 2022, where in one of them, in a game that did go to overtime, he threw for 365 yards and 3 touchdowns. If you are the odds maker, how much do you care about Stidham's small sample size so far in his NFL career? How much are you using the Bo Nix game-by-game performances to inform the number? And what balance are you finding in keeping the New England allowed numbers, within your back pocket? And I think what's very interesting is the defensive performances that we've had from New England so far in this postseason, where Herbert did nothing and Stroud would have been better off doing nothing. The element, though, where this game feels so different is you could argue, I think you'd actually be right to argue, that the Patriots are going from playing 2 of the 5 worst offensive lines in football to one of the 5, if not the literal best offensive line in this league. And the opportunity that then should provide Stidham. Yet here's where the complication, though, continues. the 5.5-point underdog. So Stidham projects necessary to throw, right? Yet if they're up, they're probably going to want to play it very close to the vest. I think it's a fascinating spot. And I think that actually, and it's a great point by Chris, I really want to give him full credit for this. It makes Drake May just as fascinating. Because Drake May right now is a huge turnover risk. Look, I know one of the interceptions that he's had so far in this postseason was a Hail Mary, so it didn't really matter. But he has thrown an interception in each game, and he won't stop fumbling. I mean, it feels crazy, but it is true. He just keeps putting the ball on the floor. And for Drake May, going into this game against this Denver defense, I wouldn't be surprised if in that coaching staff, they feel the only way they lose is if Drake May turns it over. So how many times are you going to be willing to let Drake May throw the football? I think that's fascinating. If you look at the Drake May recent props, just how they've been booking May, you saw a huge shift from the Charger game to the Texans game. And if that's a shift influenced by weather, okay, but maybe more so the opponent, well, now you have an equal caliber opponent, yet the biggest line May has laid so far. Because, the number is almost double, actually, what they laid to Houston. And could close at double the number, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see how they want to set Drake May up here in this postseason. You then go to the NFC side, and it is another, I think, largely obvious one that we can start with, which is Ken Walker. We, funny enough, had a conversation, amongst us, I think around last week's target player props of, Walker versus Charbonnet and opportunity versus talent. And I think there's kind of an agreement that Kenneth Walker is actually the most talented running back that Seattle has, but they just use Charbonnet a certain way. So Zach Charbonnet, who unfortunately, of course, during this run, you never want to see it happen, is out for the year, tears his ACL. Ken Walker ends up getting as many targets as he has had in any game this season and responds with 116 yards and 3 touchdowns, by far and away the best game he has had. However, what makes this all so interesting, because now you have these stat lines to work off of, right, of Walker without Charbonnet, you are then quickly reminded who the heck it came against, which was a dead Niners defense that only a Kevin Patullo-led offense could possibly not take advantage of. Because this is a Rams defense who, against Carolina, Rico Dowdle went 5 for 9 on the ground. Chuba Hubbard had a fine day, a couple of short rushing touchdowns, but wasn't jumping off. He didn't have a rush of 10 yards in that game, Chuba, in 13 carries. Now, the Bears' rush attack was a bit better, right? But some of that elevated by what Caleb brought to the table. Swift was at 4 yards a carry, Monangai at 2.8. So, could you argue sell high on Walker off that performance? You probably can. You probably can. And then this one isn't an over-under, but it's a should we or should we not? That, gosh, I feel like us even including it suggests we absolutely want to, which is Devontae Adams anytime touchdown. Devontae Adams against Carolina had the highest odds of any player in that game to score. Doesn't get a look. And then against the Bears, he was my favorite bet, once again, had the highest odds of any player to score. Doesn't get a look. And it is very difficult to get a sense of how valuable the Davante Adams touchdowns actually were in the regular season. And yeah, there's some real irony within that because those touchdowns are likely what will win Matthew Stafford MVP. But I think we can all call it what it was. It was a gimmick. It was ethical hooping. It was no different than the tush push ran by Hurts or Josh Allen. It's, hey, Davante, we're going to run bunch formation, just run a 1-yard fade. And he's obviously unbelievable at it, and Stafford has great touch. But you get into the playoffs and you go, okay, either the run game's working, give it to Kyron, or Puka's 100 times better than Davante, give it to him. And that's what they've done so far. So all of a sudden, Davante Adams, being the NFL's touchdown leader, feels irrelevant? It's kind of interesting, but I don't think it's that far off. We'll talk to Tom Vecchio about all of this next on SportsGrid.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there.
Yeah.
To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigants in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. Here's the
There's
thing.
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on. Go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. You say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clint Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, guys, live right here on SportsGrid. We're live at a couple games right now on the ranked college side of things. North Carolina, Notre Dame, as well as Illinois and Maryland. Kentucky, Texas, of course. We are tracking that action as well. But we're talking some target player props. We're talking a little bit of everything here with our guy Tom Vecchio. Does an excellent job on SportsGrid at really just kind of covering the full board. So let me, Tom, ask you about tonight's board. Anything you're looking to bet here on this Wednesday?
Just one bet tonight. That'd be Leafs Red Wings. They just had puck drop over 6.5. Literally just a few minutes in. I think I saw the live total drop to 5.5, but it was 5.5 minus 140 to the over. I would still play that.
All right, so you can get a good number there on Tom's favorite bit of action. So, Tom, tonight we decided to do, and you know this because we've done the target player props with Tom all season, where we kind of just offer up these over or under, what will the book do? So, Jarrett Stidham, Tom, what would you do? What do you think the books will do? What are you interested in with the Broncos replacement quarterback?
You know, my mind keeps going to, like, this game has so many, the range of outcomes for this game is massive. And when it comes to the offense for the Broncos, my mind keeps going back to, like, just a very, very top-down view. Like, the Pats can win a high-scoring game. The Pats can win a low-scoring game. The Broncos can win a low-scoring game. The Broncos can't win a high-scoring game. The only way for the Broncos to try and win this game is to grind it out. Like, they do not want to turn this into a shootout. They don't want to turn this into some high-flying game like last week. I also just don't think the offense is going to be there. They want to kind of reel things in, keep it close to the vest, run the ball. Dobbins is back at practice. He's not officially activated, but having him for even just a handful of carries along with Harvey and McLaughlin, like, that would allow Stidham to not have to do a whole lot. Now, I saw a report today or a quote earlier saying that they want Stidham to rip it or whatever it was along those lines. I don't know if that's the best plan. So to see people hesitant to bet his over would not surprise me. However, you know, we did see some line movement down to 4.5 now for this game. If they are playing from behind, listen, he could very easily go over 200 and it's not going to be pretty. Like, he'll just get there because he gets there.
Yeah, I think that is the issue, is where you land on that prop is probably going to be telling of where you land on the side. And I think, Tom, that's why, and again, I'm going to keep giving him credit. Chris kind of pointed out the Drake May props are equally as interesting because I don't think New England walks into this and acts like it's normal. It's not normal, right? You're playing a great defense and an offense that is on a quarterback who hasn't started a game in multiple years.
Right. So the way, like, when I'm evaluating Drake May, like, my mind initially goes to Stidham being there doesn't matter for him because, like, he has to still face the Denver defense, which I think will be, like, tuned up to a different level because they know they have to be the difference maker in this game. Now, obviously, if they, let's say, Kevin, if the Pats score 13 points, 14 points, maybe 17, if the Denver offense can score and they only get 3 points, 6 points on the board, then Drake May doesn't have to do anything. But at a certain point, like, the matchup is just so tough for Drake May that I almost want to take Stidham out of it and just say, Drake May going against this defense, what's going to happen? Like, if we just kept that in the bubble, just Drake May in the offense versus the Denver defense, what would we really be considering as, like, a normal game for him?
So I think, Tom, I think the first half of what you said is why I think Stidham being there is relevant because, look, Drake May is going to finish no worse than second in league MVP. He has had some very big games. And when you have a guy who has had this season, a lot of times you say, hey, go win us a football game. That's what Buffalo did, right? Despite the Denver defense being the Denver defense, they said, hey, Josh, go win us a football game. I think it's on the board with the way Drake has looked, Tom, that New England says, Drake, you will not lose this game for us. I don't care what we think of you. I don't care that you're our franchise quarterback. No way in the world are you dropping back 30 times in this game.
Yeah, I said this to Donnie and Joe on Monday, just like as a reaction from the game over the weekend. And, he had his struggles, and he took a lot of sacks in that Chargers game. The fumbles were there. And then he did the same thing against Houston. And the offensive line for the Pats is not looking great, and he took more fumbles. And obviously one of the picks, wasn't an issue. But now he's going up against Denver, and he's going up against a Denver defense that has to be great. Because if the Denver defense isn't great, then they lose this game 99 times out of 100. So, like, this is where I was saying, like, Nick Medito has to have a huge game. And that's why I said, like, in an offhand manner, like, taking a Super Bowl MVP flyer on him is almost interesting because if they win the game, it's going to be because of the defense.
So that's why it is such an interesting situation here, though, right? Because you look at these numbers and it's informed through what we expect out of Stidham. But, Tom, what if Denver means it when they say it? Hey, we're going to let Stidham rip it. and all of a sudden Denver comes out red hot. A couple of broken plays. They've got 14 early in the second quarter. Well, now none of those priors matter, right? Let me ask you quickly, because we're going to get to the other game here. What in the world do you make of this J.K. Dobbins stuff?
If Bo Nix was healthy, I don't think he'd be practicing. Or I think he'd be practicing and they wouldn't be pushing him to get back, because then if they won the game, they have that extra week off, and then he'd be ready for the Super Bowl, like actually ready for the Super Bowl. Yeah. I think they're like, listen, if you can give it a go, we would like you out. And as long as like, oh, he's clear, the doctors, this, that, the other thing. But, you know, to have another tool in the toolbox would be great in this specific circumstance.
You know, it's an interesting take in that if Bo was good, they wouldn't rush him back. But again, if Bo was good, the line is a round pick. Like, they would still need their best guys. Mm-hmm. Is Dobbins the best guy?
He's not a difference maker. He's not a difference maker, but he's sturdy. Like, that's the way I would describe it. Like, he is a trusted back, proven over years. The coaches like him, and having just see, the difference is like him and Harvey, or Harvey and McLaughlin. Like, give me the first two. Even if like he's not a huge different back, I would still take that pairing, obviously.
Yeah, Harvey has given us weird production, to say the minimum. Mm-hmm. He has so far been far more valuable as a pass catcher than a runner. Let's get over to the NFC Championship game with Tom after the break, right here on SportsGrid.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigants in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not either.
That's fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. There's
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. You say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clint Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh, Tom Vecchio. Tom, NFC Championship game. Target player props. You had to see this one coming. Ken Walker. What do? No Zach Charbonnet. What a tougher defense. What do they do with this number, Tom? 80?
I'll be honest, if it's in the 80s or the mid 80s, I'm betting the under. I think that's just what it comes down to. You know, last week it was like the perfect storm of things where Sam Darnold's coming off this oblique. They don't want him to throw too much. And then all of a sudden the game balloons out of control where they can then just run the ball against a defense that is bad to begin with. And then like they just quit. Like the game was over. So like they were just running the ball with Walker, right? So like that was the perfect storm. And that number that we see from Walker plus the Charbonnet news, everyone's like, oh, I'm just going to bet Walker again because he's going to do that. And, if Sam Darnold truly isn't healthy, that's a different story. But, George Halani, the third string running back who is on his way back, not fully activated, like they do like him. Like there were games earlier in the season where they give him some decent carries and they give him some decent carries along the goal line. Like not many people know who like the third string guy is for Seattle, but if he's back, I almost have more interest in his touchdown prop rather than Ken Walker.
The interesting thing, just because you mentioned the touchdown props, and look, we know some numbers are out and available. On one book, Tom, Ken Walker is the only player this entire weekend with a minus price to score. Like, again, I get it, but it's too far, in my opinion. Just where we see, like, typical Rams touchdown allowance and things of that nature. But sticking with the notion of touchdowns, Tom, last week was kind of a throw my hands up in the air with Davante Adams because I felt that a lot of the stuff in the regular season was potentially gimmicky. And now I feel like that's been confirmed here in the postseason.
I would say, what we saw in the regular season in terms of touchdown rate, specifically touchdown rate inside the 5, inside the 10, like whatever sample size you want to boil it down to, like he is at the peak or the very end of the bell curve when it comes to production. Like that is obviously not sustainable. So to see that regress is not a surprise. I will also say, I don't think Davante's healthy. And this is just me, like total speculation by me, like dealing with the hamstring. He's obviously up there in age. So it's both of those. Like he's not fully healthy. And then also regression is going to hit at a certain point. So those things are happening together at the most important time of the season. So it's magnified. But in reality, this would have happened over a long enough sample size anyway, whether it was fully healthy or not.
So that's what still I think makes some of this, like one of the reasons, Tom, that I am betting his touchdowns, right, going into these games as opposed to yardage numbers is I don't have to worry about the health of it all. It's just, it was what they ran, and it's not what they're running so far in the postseason. It doesn't mean he can't score. But what made Davante Adams appealing, the way I like to bet touchdowns, I say this, again, I think Tom is a great touchdown bettor. Chris likes to take his shots. Even Yarnell, like he'll do it with the long bill shots. I typically bet touchdowns the way I bet the NFL draft. I like certainty, okay? I like a minus 115 because to me, I usually make running back touchdown better. The idea is ball's inside the 5, it's going to you. Davante Adams was that in wide receiver form, right? They get to the 1, and the same way, if you bet a Saquon anytime, when the ball was at the 1, you were annoyed because Jalen Hurts tush pushes were coming. If you had Kyron anytime and the ball's at the 1 or the 2, it's like, oh, great. They're going to run the Davante fade play. And just we're not seeing that right now, so it's eliminated my trust in him, Tom.
I would say if you wanted Kyron to score at any point this season, you would hope that it was like a 10 or 15-yard run. The thing I would try and sell you on would be betting both Davante and Puka touchdown props since they're plus 120 and plus 125 and plus 120 respectively. And you just need one of them to score, and then you're net positive. It's going to be very slight, but if Stafford throws a passing touchdown, I would expect at least one of those guys to be involved.
Dang it. That's such a good point. That just
Stafford
ruined my day. No, stop. You already ruined my day.
If he throws 2 or 3
no,
touchdowns
I know. You're right.
and neither of them score, I'd be stunned.
You're right. Stafford didn't throw a touchdown. Like, where was I supposed to win money? He's obviously catching a touchdown next weekend. Great stuff from Tom. Dang it. Great stuff. Oh, no.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigants in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. There's
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. You say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clay Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions back right here on SportsGrid. I got to tell you, people, this is so silly. Okay. However, occasionally you run into take an opinion that just perfectly lands for you. I'd love a world where that's the case for many of you when you tune into this show, right? At least once a night, maybe once a week, whatever it may be. As someone who lost Davante Adams anytime touchdown, it didn't necessarily settle in with me, at least in appropriate fashion, that Stafford didn't throw a touchdown pass. Like, Stafford threw a touchdown pass every single game this season. So, the outlier, Davante doesn't get home in the first game, right? It happens, though. They, hit Puka on one a little bit deeper out. They then hit a deeper shot to Parkinson, even the Kyren one. All of the touchdown passes in that game were outside the 10-yard line. They did run a probably should have been touchdown pass to Puka at the 5, but when you're betting Davante to catch a touchdown, you are betting him to catch one from 3 yards and in, and Stafford doesn't have one of those right now in the postseason. And you will get the best number that you've been able to get on Davante to score so far this postseason. And, Chris, went through the Davante Adams catalog. You have to go back multiple teams to find a stretch this long without a touchdown pass. So, it makes sense. And I think at minimum, right, if you're taking some shots this weekend in parlays, Davante Adams a more than acceptable leg. I think we could agree on that. So, look, it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to follow. We'll talk more about it I do want to update the live board quickly here. We are tracking Tom's play on the ice. He handled the ice tonight. He likes over Detroit. It's 1-0 Maple Leafs with 6 to go in the first. So slower start to that game, but still plenty of time left. On the NBA board, Donovan Mitchell with 6 early points. That's disappointing, though. They're up 28-8 on Charlotte. You would want a lot more from Donovan Mitchell for a team that's tracking to score 35-plus in the opening quarter than just 6 points, especially if this game is going to get out of hand, which it very well could. You know, fourth quarter minutes may not be guaranteed. Yeah. I'll explain that in a second. So what we're tracking the Donovan Mitchell action. On the college basketball board, North Carolina, Notre Dame live total 147.5. Trending under. That's all I'll say. Illinois up 31-26 on Maryland. But where I know everyone's attention is Texas, Kentucky, first half over. Do we have a live first half? Why do we not have live odds in this game? They're reviewing something. Malachi Moreno has a black eye. What is going on here? I'm seeing 30-25 on the television. Chris would need 17 points in 6 minutes. That's got to be pace. That's got to be pace. I think he's on pace. So we'll root him in. We have to root him in. It's the only option to root him in. What we will also be rooting in a couple of minutes is a Knicks team total over tonight against the Brooklyn Nets. The New York Knicks are playing like one of the 5 worst teams in the NBA over their last 3 weeks of basketball. Literally. They are 2-9 straight up. Their net rating is 4th worst, with only the Wizards, Nets, and Jazz so far being worse in that same time frame. But the fact that they are playing one of those teams that's actually been worse than them helps. I think the Knicks, back in their building where they've now lost 2 in a row, not scoring 100 in each of those games, are in line for, at minimum, a good offensive performance. And that's what I'll be betting on with their team total over 116.5. The other primetime NBA game tonight is Milwaukee and Oklahoma City. And, you know, I'm sure the TV network maybe feels like they're, you know, getting stuck with a bad one. I actually disagree. I like Milwaukee plus 11.5 against the Thunder. The Bucks, yeah, they're not healthy. Oklahoma City is actually far more injured. So OKC not super healthy going into the game against Cleveland. No Hartenstein, no Jalen Williams, 2 of their regular 5 starters. They started Jalen Williams and Aaron Wiggins in that game in replacement. They're both out. They're both out. Along with still J-Dub and Hartenstein. No Caruso. I don't even know what the starting lineup's going to be. Chet, SGA, Dort, Kaysen Wallace, Isaiah Joe? Are you kidding me? Like, I know Chet is the Defensive Player of the Year favorite. I'm not even saying he's undeserving of that. But he's going to have to guard Giannis and score 25? That sounds awful. Like, I know OKC has a swarming defense. There are not a lot of defenses that are well-equipped to do anything with Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is a different caliber guy. And I think Giannis, who is right now not playing, you know, some apex hoop, could be in line for one of his bigger games. So, but instead of worrying about the Giannis props, I am locked in on Milwaukee covering the 11.5. And then the other pick that I do have late night is Arizona against Cincinnati, where I'm laying the 13.5. Again, I do not lay a ton of points. I'm trying to remember the last time I laid double digits. I can't recall easily, off the top of my head, I think this is a good spot to do it. Because it's an 18-0 Arizona team, but it's a Cincinnati group who just upset the, at the time, number 2 team in the country in Iowa State. So I think that gives you a bit of an overinflated number. And when you look at like matchups, this is a Cincinnati team who's playing a very high-tempo Arizona offense. Cincinnati plays Louisville. They're up by 4 at the break. They lose the second half by 14 points and lose the game by 10. Georgia, one of the fastest teams in the country. Tie game at the break. They lose the second half by 19. I think that shows there's something there. And I think it's another reason to feel good about laying 13.5. Cincinnati could be up at the break. I don't think they will be, but they could be. And I still have seen this season that not be enough to guarantee the Bearcats anything against an up-and-down basketball team. So I feel good about this spot here tonight for the number 1 team in the country. We're going to lay the 13.5. What we are going to do after the break is talk to our guy, Cam Stewart, who, if my memory holds, I think it does, is 1 for 1 so far on PGA Tour outrights. What? No pressure. Can he make it 2 for 2? That's next right here on SportsGrid.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there.
Yeah.
To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigant in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing.
There's more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. I said, well, why? Wait a second here. He's the head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clay Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions. We are here on SportsGrid, and one thing I think SportsGrid has, at least should always be proud of, is the group of guys who handle the golf. And look, I think everybody would be fine with me shouting out Mike Carver, who is a part of that collective and still does an excellent job covering the golf. And it was on display, tournament one. Cam Stewart, who's fortunate enough, comes here every single week, and we talk golf. And Chris Gotterup, not at some short number, comes in at the Sony Cam, which is awesome. And I think it gives people a reminder that, we don't we don't only do this segments because Cam is one of my favorite people in the world. There's also a lot of value in it.
Thank you, Kevin. Wow, that was a warm welcome. And thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I love you, Chris Gotterup, because you didn't let me down on Sunday. I tell my girlfriend, how many times on Sunday am I sitting there looking at the leaderboard going, wow, honey, we got a 3-shot lead, and Steven Yeager, as I mentioned, just put it in the neighbor's pool. Oh, no, he hit it in the woods. Where'd it go? Gotterup, boom, 16-footer, 22-footer. I'm like, this guy's not going away. And Kevin, one thing about Chris Gotterup is he's a guy that's worked his ass off to get to where he is, and he appreciates it. And he's a guy that knows how to close. Not everybody in golf can do that. There's a lot of top 5 guys, top 10s, top 20s. But Gotterup, when he's in the mix, let's remember one thing. He stared down Rory McIlroy in Scotland, and Gotterup took him in a 1-to-1 battle to win the tournament. Gotterup beat Rory. He builds off this. You know what I mean? And now he continues to win. He's getting better. Pride of New Jersey, Rutgers, go Chris Gotterup. 1 for 8. This is a SportsGrid area. This guy literally lives right around the studio. And I'll tell you something. Watch out for Chris Gotterup. He's an emotional guy. He's a cool dude. And I'll tell you, he's not afraid of anybody on tour. That's the thing. You need the Scotty Scheffler in you. You have to be a bulldog. A lot of these guys are like, yeah, I'm in it for the paycheck. Money's good. But Gotterup wants to win. And that's really important in golf. A lot of these guys don't have that instinct on Sunday where I'm not going to back down. I'm going to battle the best in the world. And I'm proud of this guy.
So, Cam, tell me then, who do you like here at the Amex? I want to get straight to it because I imagine, you were telling me sometimes bombs win here, so this maybe could be a bigger outright card.
It is. I'm going to go with a value play, dude. And Scotty Scheffler and Brady Cannon, Keith Stewart, all these guys that, they come on the show, and I really respect these guys. But I'm going to tell you, you're getting Ben Griffin at 25-1. That's amazing. Ben Griffin is one of the best players in the world. He should be 16-1. So when I find him at 25-1, I'm going to bet him. He was in the mix last week. He had one bad stretch of holes, but I think he'll be good. Kevin, Ryan, I'll tell you something about Matthew Fitzpatrick. He plays really good overseas, and a lot of these overseas guys, they come to California and they play well. He putts well on Poa annua. That's the surface. And Matthew Fitzpatrick is a guy who hits it straight. That's what you need. This California swing, don't spray it. You're playing on 3 different courses. Keep it in play. I like Fitzpatrick. Now we're going with a value play. Kevin, I hate to be this guy. I'm telling you, those golf hipsters, like I did a hit with Carver too. He got him at 75-1. He's been bet down to 60. I've seen him at 50 at some spots. Daniel Berger, watch out. A little bit injured last year, playing really, really well. And I'm going to tell you something. He is going to win eventually, and I got to come to the party at 60-1. He's playing very good golf. And Rasmus Højgaard is on the European Ryder Cup team. People don't know about this guy because he plays overseas. He's one of the best players in the world. He's trending in the right direction. Every tournament he's in the mix. He's battled Rory before. So at 80-1, Kevin, I got to take my shot. I know even there's a couple guys that you're looking at. I looked at Dunlap at 180-1 too. Guys in the past have won this tournament at 80-1 plus. So I'll give you some top 10s and 20s, Kev, because that's where you're going to win. Only one guy's going to win the tournament, and thank God for Gotterup last week. But Ludwig Gobert is one of the best players in the world. He's had a little bit of a break. So what are we going to do? We're going to take him for a top 10 at plus 240. He can win this event. One of the better players in the world, well rested, and I like the price. Top 20. Patrick Cantlay, if you're looking about horses for courses, all he does is finish in the top 5 and 10 in this event. He's plus 125 for a top 20. I'll play it safe. And Harry Hall, we had him last week. He did great. He finished in the top 10, plus 145 for a top 20. The UNLV product plays really, really well at the start of the season. Top 30, we're going with Michael Thorbjornsen, a very, very strong player, a player from Stanford, playing in California. Oh my God, I got 2 guys from Stanford. Didn't even realize. Patrick, don't call me Buck Rogers at plus 150. Almost won last week. He was one of the guys who was threatening Gotterup. I got 2 guys from California, plus 120 for Thorbjornsen and plus 150. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. Patrick Rogers, if you're in a season-long golf pool, this guy is very close. Knocking on the door with top 5s and 10s. He was a phenom when he came out of school, a little bit slow starter, but I'll tell you, Kevin, he's going to win soon, and I want to be there for it. I love this guy. Watch out for Patrick Rogers this year.
That's awesome. Cam, I wanted to ask you about a trend I heard with the Amex, is that typically your winner will have played in Hawaii and maybe even played well, but if I'm not mistaken, we have one less Hawaii tournament. So do you think that throws off that trend, or it just makes who played well at Sony that much more important?
I think it's a little bit of both, Kevin, but the tournament that got canceled was the Century Tournament of Champions, right? So you're not going to have, it's a smaller field. So we had one field, and then these guys go to California. What I want to do is take players that played well last week. Rogers played well. Harry Hall played well. Ben Griffin played well. These guys are and some of these guys we haven't seen yet, like Ludwig Gobert. A lot of them are playing the TGL with Tiger Woods and doing this stuff too. They're still playing simulated golf, but we haven't seen them on the course. But my theory is, let's get these guys who played well last week, and we'll attack them again in California at a nice price, Kev. Can't wait, buddy. We got NFL football this weekend. Everybody's talking about the Rams. I'm praying my Seahawks show up, buddy. This is huge for me.
Are you surprised it's 2.5?
I got to be honest with you. It's a good number. I think if you put out 3, you're going to get even more Ram money. And we've had a lot of people that like the Rams. I think Seattle could beat these guys. I know the Charbonnet injury could hurt a little bit, but you saw what happens. When you unleash Kenneth Walker, he's their back. He's fine, Kevin. You see what in the open field, he's an absolute monster. Sam Darnold has had 6 picks in 2 games against these guys. Let's just keep it clean, no turnovers. And the thing is, Gabe brought up a great point to me, Kevin. I didn't even realize this. Do you know the Seahawks haven't sacked Sam Darnold in 3 years? They have no sacks against this guy. Get some pressure on him. And they beat him once this year, and the other game was a 2-point game. I'm scared of the Rams. I'm not going to lie to you. First, we beat the 49ers. We slay them. They were injury prone. This is a very difficult game for Seattle. You know what? I got to be honest with you. The winner of this game, I think, is obviously going to be the Super Bowl favorite for good reason. You see the look-ahead numbers. They're the 2 best teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, Cam, listen, awesome. As always, best of luck with the golf. We'll get best bets for everybody on the way out right here on Sports.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
NCAA always has a complicated relationship with sports betting. It's, of course, they were the title litigants in the fall of the federal ban. They were trying to stop New Jersey from offering it. They just don't like sports betting, right? I think they understand that people bet on their games and it probably drives engagement, but at the end of the day, they see this as a threat. We know all the scandals that have happened around college sports.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not either.
That's fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. There's
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on. Go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Buffalo Bills have to find a new head coach. Take a look at the leaders right now. A 33% chance Brian Dable takes that job. You say, well, why? Wait a second here. He's head coach of the New York Giants. Did you know he came from the Buffalo Bills and basically resurrected Josh Allen on that MVP trajectory while he was with the Buffalo Bills? Clint Kubiak, Joe Brady, Davis Webb, all offensive guys, which I agree with.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, guys, wrapping things up with you here on Game Time Decisions. In-game live, of course, will be next, where they will have the NBA, the college hoops, and the NHL slates covered throughout the night. So make sure, of course, you stay dialed in here on this Wednesday. Let's take the opportunity just to flip some updates your way. We mentioned that 28-8 lead that Cleveland had over Charlotte. That dwindled down a little bit to just a 13-point lead at the end of the opening quarter. So, certainly, Charlotte here for the long haul, going to try and make that a game. Our best bet, which was a Knicks team total over, is underway. Cats come out firing with 7 early ones and is a perfect 2 for 2 from the floor, which is nice to see. So we'll continue to root that in. Celtics, Pacers off to a slower start. Jaylen Brown was questionable, but he goes and right now is tied with Pascal Siakam at 9 points, leading all scorers within that game. The other NBA that is still to come tonight, Memphis, Atlanta. That's a short 1.5 number for Memphis. I will say with the Hawks, there was this big idea that getting rid of Trae Young was going to be this incredible moment. They keep losing. So, maybe they're not that great. Maybe they missed Kristaps. Maybe CJ McCollum was a bad addition. All's on the board, right? But this is a team who's going to have to do some recalibrating probably in the offseason. Again, I think moving off of Trae was fine. But just this notion, moving off of Trae was fine. What they got back was flatly unacceptable. But the notion that just getting rid of Trae Young was going to make this team good was outrageous. And they're right now 20-25. Luckily, though, due to it being the Eastern Conference, right in the thick of things for the NBA's play-in tournament. New Orleans tonight, 7.5 point underdog to Detroit. With Cade Cunningham out, if that just doesn't say something to you, New Orleans. They're like, yeah, we're going to keep everybody. No trades. Zion, Trey Murphy, Herbert Jones. Like, listen, I don't know. I guess what would be the point of trading him, but that team's a mess. Pistons are laying a big number. Thunder are laying a huge number. Looks like I didn't get the best of it. Let's get live updates here. I'm seeing 12.5 now in the market. Yeah, where'd it go? 12s. Mostly 12. Maybe some 12.5 out there. I got 11.5, and that's fine. Listen, I think the Bucks cover this game. OKC is missing 2 starters. The 2 guys that then they started in replacement of those guys as well, plus Alex Caruso. There's no way we've been able to get the Thunder starting lineup yet, have we? Because I'd love to get an idea of what they're going to run out there. No, not yet. I don't know what that 5-man is. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they want to set that up. But that's where we are in the NBA late night. Sacramento, Toronto. Raptors got a nice win. Dominated the Warriors. 145-127. First game without Jimmy Butler since that ACL tear. We'll see how the Warriors try and adjust rest of way. On the NHL slate, tied at 1 apiece, which is good for Tom. Maple Leafs, Red Wings. You've got still to come tonight. Ducks, Avalanche, Mammoth, Flyers, Flames, Penguins, Canucks, Caps. The primetime late game is Seattle and the Islanders, where the Kraken check in as a slight home underdog. Game's essentially pick. College basketball board, we've got one best bet in the door, which we love to see. The over in the first half between Texas and Kentucky flew really by the end of it, despite atrocious three-point shooting. These teams combined 4 for 21. Texas went 1 of 9, but both teams got to the line, made their free throws, played with pace. Kentucky offensively has to they just got to keep offensively, they have to keep the three-point shots coming. They are a better three-point shooting team than they showed early season. We'll see how that translates. UNC Notre Dame. You want to talk about three-point shooting. That is the only thing keeping this total afloat right now. Notre Dame has made as many threes as twos, despite the fact that they've taken about half the amount of threes. They're 6 of 12 right now from 3. They are 6 of 22 from 2. We'll see if that tightens up in the second half, but the game is trending over right now. Illinois up 47-30 on Maryland. We're laying 13.5 with Arizona late night. Best of luck. In-game live is next on SportsGrid.